Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome. It is round number 4 of the ACER Malta GT3 Championship. We seem to be in a little bit of the dark again, it seems. But my name is Adam Reed. James Otter alongside me. Yes, it is time to get into spooky season with Halloween just around the corner. But of course, we're not here for Halloween. We're here for racing. We're here at the Autodromo. Sorry, not the Autodromo. We're at the Ricardo Tormo, of course, based in Valencia, a couple miles out from the city centre. Really intrigued to see how this 2.5 mile circuit is for the driver, because it's going to be quite the difficult circuit to try and negotiate. So really looking forward to seeing how they get onto this one, James.
Yeah, welcome aboard to the spooky part of this particular championship, folks. We are live at the circuit Ricardo Tormo, as you rightfully pointed out there, Adam. A circuit more infamously known, actually, for the long sights. Of course, the big grandstands gives the fans usually quite a unique atmosphere, doesn't it? So we should be in for an absolute cracker of a race. Nonetheless, the GT3 car is usually known for its side-by-side racing, especially down at the front. So it should be an absolute great race nonetheless, as I think the lights are just starting to flicker on, Adam.
Yeah, so they do seem to be in this championship. The lights are really flickering away to see who's going to be flipping this way and that way in this championship. But there's only been one leader, and it has been Ryan Carabot. 17 drivers will enter for this race tonight. There he is, our championship with Ryan Carabot, that just managed to just run away, it seemed like, last time out in Paul Ricard, into a third win in a row, third pole position. It's just the case of, can he be stopped? He can maximize his if he can maximize his championship points, he'll be the first driver over 100 points, which will be absolutely brilliant for him. His sake. Sean Cassar finishing home in second, Adrian Manduca rounding off the podium. So some really good stuff. It seems like McLaren did have the advantage last time out in Paul Ricard, and I just wonder if that will maybe continue next time around here in Ricardo Tormo. Of course, completely different circuits. You know, you only got really one long straight, maybe a second one on the way down to some very tricky corners, but overall, I do think a lot of these guys are really looking forward to tonight's race.
Yeah, Champi Herreros down to Adrian Campos is usually where you start to see people really sort of instigate potential overtaking, because of course you've got that long sweeping left-hander going through turn number 13 between those two corners, but they are both off of a bit of a weird angle. So that is where we're expecting people to potentially go for a little bit of a bit more of an intense event, we think, during the main race. I'm expecting lineups to potentially occur, perhaps going out of Dewan into the 90-degree hander of turn number 4, and then Jaume Masala heading around turn number 11 is where we'd start to see people head towards Champi Herreros. So this is where things are starting to potentially get interesting as well in this particular championship, because of course I missed it last time out, but Adam, you took us around, of course, at the circuit Paul Ricard, and it ended up becoming a bit more of an intense race. But again, we're starting to see early precedents here that we've definitely got some favourites.
Yeah, definitely. I think that the Ford Mustang looks like it's a really good car. It's, handled really well on a lot of these circuits, and I've been really impressed by it. There's not really been many faults as Ryan Carabot has always been as strong as we know. The Ferraris have really been keeping in tune as well. I'm just really interested to see how they're going to go. I think there is quite the wide open opportunity, but I think the likes of Sean Cassar and Adrian Manduca really need the pounds, because if they can't win against Ryan Carabot tonight, then you're really in for a tricky one for the remainder final 4 rounds of the season. That being taking place in Barcelona before we head to 3 rounds over in the United States of America. So we're looking at some really big events here. As you say, Laguna Seca, Watkins Glen, and second, the Americas are going to be our American kind of final road home to glory. for one driver at least. But you can see we've already gone some very, very iconic European circuits, and we're probably going to be heading into another one maybe next week when we get, or 2 weeks time when we head to Circuit de Barcelona, Catalonia. When you think of motorsport in Spain, you really do think of the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalonia, rather than the Circuit Ricardo Tormo that we're at tonight. It seems like their younger sister in a way.
Yeah, the Circuit Ricardo Tormo is not really known for its main racing. If you are someone a bit like us, actually, heading into the Circuit Ricardo Tormo, actually, from the Formula era and the open wheel races, it's a circuit you're not really mostly familiar with, especially at Valencia. Usually you think about the Valencia Road Circuit, but at the Ricardo Tormo, you've got plenty of opportunities for overtaking, but it's also such a free-flowing circuit, very Zandvoort-esque, actually, in my opinion, just without all of those camber and elevation changes. So the flat part of the circuit will offer people opportunities, if you've got the raw power on these main straights especially, and I think the Mustang is particularly going to be quite potent at this circuit, just purely because of that raw engine that's powering it at the front of that car. But as said, it's a 4-kilometer circuit, of course, with those 14 turns. Not that much in the way of elevation change, but we're expecting somewhere in the region of 90 seconds to be the sort of lap times as well here in the GT3 car. So we should be in for a pretty good race, but be interested to see what the split is going to be like in terms of the cars. As I said, the Mustang probably going to be the favourites, but the BMWs might be pretty good around here as well.
Yeah, indeed. I see what you kind of mean there, where you say it's quite Zandvoort-esque. Like, imagine kind of Zandvoort in a way just completely flat. That's kind of what you're getting with the Ricardo Tormo circuit. So, maybe just a bit of a longer straight, in all honesty, because that main straight, I'm sure, is much, much longer than the one at Zandvoort. But yeah, really intrigued to see how we go into qualifying with this. There's so much to this circuit, and I'm sure we'll be able to get into it very, very soon. Of course, right now the hosting of the preseason testing for the upcoming Formula E Championship. So that is currently where they're going at. But yeah, GT World Challenge go here for their sprint race, as well as I believe the Euro NASCAR series have their season opener at this circuit. So plenty of opportunities, and as well as Spanish F4 usually go here as well. So. Yep. It's got a lot of the characteristics and big motorsport events to this.
Yeah, and also worth mentioning about Formula E as well, the recent news that's just come out of Formula E as well is that Citroen Racing is now part of Formula E as well, and that's something I'm extremely excited about as well within the esports sphere, so within the regular sports sphere rather, sorry. So regardless, we've definitely got a lot up in the horizons at the moment within the motorsport sphere, but within the esports sphere at the moment, GT3 coming to the circuit, Ricardo Tormo, offers an opportunity for the drivers to experience something a little bit different, because of course all the other circuits, including Watkins Glen, for that matter, is something that everyone has definitely at least dabbled with. They might have gone on to Gran Turismo 4 on their PlayStation 2 or Gran Turismo 3 even, and just had a little play around maybe in a Fiat Panda or something, but they've never come to the circuit Ricardo Tormo in a generic capacity. So this may offer opportunities for those in the midfield to potentially find some ground if they've been practicing. But as I said, we are expecting, when it comes to the cars, I think the Mustang certainly is going to be the favourite in terms of how the race sort of shapes itself, how the track is shaped. We'd expect that the likes of the Mustang is pretty good, but the BMW, as I said, is particularly potent around here. It's a circuit that definitely benefits those of the long wheelbase variety, but that's not to discredit the McLaren, because the straight line speed, especially going into turn number 1, is definitely going to be the potent, especially if you get the Adrian Campos final corner perfect.
Indeed, just having a look over at the circuit, kind of seeing what, again, some of the characteristics as well. You've got kind of a Nieto, I don't know, I believe is turn 6, and then on towards 8. That's going to be quite interesting. There's a little bit of a straight there to kind of maybe get yourself in the mirrors. Again, I think Curva Championeros, I think that's going to be turn 12 or 13 on the circuit. Again, that's going to be really pivotal in trying to get a good exit on toward that main straight. So I think a lot of these guys are really going to be having to get the practice down, really solidify themselves onto the circuit, and early doors put themselves in a good time when we go into this qualifying session.
It'll be an absolute cracker, I think. I don't think we're too far away, actually, from qualifying. Just about to begin, to be honest with you, as well. As we've just eclipsed now 8 p.m. over here in the UK. So, Adam, I'm going to be keeping this short and sweet because, of course, you're leading this one here tonight. So, you know, answers on the postcard is really the only question I'm going to be asking you for this one here is, you know, yes, we know the Mustang might be particularly potent around this circuit, but again, just due to the fact that this is a circuit that perhaps not a lot of these drivers may have sort of investigated potentially in a while, is it all set up in motion here for, you know, an outright victory for those that decide to use the BMWs, decide to use the Mustang, or is there someone that just might be able to pip at the post with something a bit different?
I'd definitely say keep an eye on Alex Kassar Sean Kassar, and definitely having a look at Adrian Manduka as well. We're into qualifying already, so apologies, we'll probably get to the adverts in just a little while. Ryan Carabot's still out there at this moment in time, so that's going to be really important for him to be getting into that very clear space that a lot of our drivers need. As I said, 17 cars out on the racetrack, and we'll have to see how they all kind of delve into this brilliant circuit.
Yeah, should be an absolute cracker ahead of us, of course. So now this is the starting of qualifying. Absolutely make no point at all of the people that you see on the left-hand side. The timing is yet to be set. So early precedent here. Then Ryan Carabot should be particularly quick here as well. Always a pleasure as well to see Maya Lefurla as well in the McLaren number 5. So she'll be flying around, we think, potentially around about sort of P7 to P10, we think, for this particular event. A couple of rookies in this one as well. Ericsson, no surprises in the BMW, and Dibic Gershi as well, a very quick driver as well, I believe, in the Uber McLaren, so he should be one to keep a very firm eye on. Of course, never discredit Denzel Agius. Usually we see him in the Lexus, but of course he's in the McLaren for this particular event. He's racing around for Project Aversio, and then Adrian Manduka in the Ferrari in P3. Of course, he should be one that we need to keep a very firm eye on as well, for a raw power of that Ferrari power unit should power him around this circuit very well indeed. And of course, it's our weekly reminder of Gabriele Crocciamani in his absolutely fabulous Ferrari as well. Might be racing with 444, but there's 95 written on the side, of course, inspired entirely by Lightning McQueen.
Yeah, I love that. Absolutely brilliant. Also, thank you to the collaborators Hyundai, Intercomp, Monsters Energy, Brand Garage, Level Academy, and the Specialist for being in partnership with this production, brought to you by Velocity Esports Racing. Thank you to everyone all involved. 17.5 minutes left on the clock, still plenty of time, but it's about dialing yourself into this qualifying session. Of course, you've already had the practice session. A lot of these drivers have been doing their own kind of private test sessions in the meantime. As you see there, Ryan Carabot really attacking turn 13 in that one, going around to the outside of what seems to be Linus Eriksson in that BMW. He'll head his way down that main straight. Of course, very much closing onto the time. Of course, a big kind of memorial there to Valentino Rossi, who had his final MotoGP race here at Valencia, I think back in 2021, where he kind of celebrated his final ride as a MotoGP legend. Many championships won by the great Italian, the Doctor, as he is nicknamed. Moving on to, well, GT3 racing, and whilst he hasn't driven a Mustang GT3 in his time, I can confirm he's driven the one, I believe that's behind him, which is there he is, the BMW M4, which he's been so infamous of, but of course did start off his GT3 career in an Audi.
Yeah, and of course, remember, he's not unknown for racing, other things that are not just on two wheels, of course. Valentino Rossi himself actually drove one of the Mercedes Formula One cars as well, if you remember, way back when. And I think it was the 2017 Mercedes Formula One car that he drove. And I think that was a particularly potent event as well, because he actually, would you believe, raced around in in that Mercedes at this circuit, the circuit Ricardo Tormo. So it's a circuit that clearly people like to race at, and I think it makes no difference that someone from MotoGP decided to race an F1 car around this particular circuit. Here's Ryan Carabot, comes across the line right now, goes straight to P2 with a 1 minute 30.782, but behind Adrian Manduca on this initial step. But we do have more than 15 minutes left in this qualifying. People will start to acclimatise to this circuit. I think we should be into the 29s pretty soon.
Yeah, we should be. It's going to be really, really important to just kind of exploit, the track limits, see where you can potentially gain, where you can maybe lose time as well. There need to be maybe some different lines, because they're really, really difficult to try and negotiate. Of course, you see there's a lot of space between the curb and the grass that you can potentially use. So as a GT3 car, you want to be using that space. You see exactly what Ryan Carabot is doing, and really trying to find any sorts of limitations to the circuit you possibly can as he winds his way around. I do wonder in those type of corners it will be more for the Ferraris and the McLarens, but Ryan Carabot just loves to make a car work. He's been doing that on multiple occasions all throughout this season, and I'm sure that he's going to be able to do it again tonight. But of course, it's never going to be easy. Never going to be easy. You're going to have to fight for every. You're going to have to fight there for every tooth and nail. Try and put yourself into a winning position. Of course, pole position in this instance.
I just want to make a point as well of a couple of drivers as Carabot's coming across the line to set his next lap. We'll see how that looks. Comes across the line, goes fastest so far with a 1:30.615. I was just saying that Dimich Gershi, Manduca's beaten him straight away, straight to P1 for him. Dimich Gershi in the Uber McLaren, the rookie driver, straight to P6. Denzel Agius was up to P2 but now relegated to P3 as a result of Carabot going above. And then of course Manduca, now the fastest of them all in the Ferrari. So that will be one to keep an eye on. But we've got a group of 4 McLarens between 3 and 6 at the moment. So McLaren looking particularly strong as Martinelli comes across the line in the Ferrari to go P5. So, it's the lap times are going to start to tumble. 31.295, bit of a gap between him and Manduca at the moment. So you clearly, no surprises. Carabot, Manduca, Agius are up there. But Dimich Gershi, again, he's knocking on the door for a rookie driver. He is one to keep a very firm eye out on indeed. Here he comes across the line, doesn't improve on his lap, 1:31.997, but a lovely tow from the Lizard Racing Team Lamborghini there of Zimmerman in P14.
Yeah, that's really, really good stuff. They're really working the wheel well, and as I say, these McLarens have been super competitive. 3rd, 4th, 6th, and 7th. It's been so good to see. Of course, you do have a couple of drivers maybe further down in said McLaren's. Chris Gatt, who we know isn't quite one of the fastest drivers, but every single time he gets in a race car, he will always try his best. Simon Barbara as well down there in P16. I think they just need to potentially pick up the pace and just see if they can potentially find anything they possibly can. Of course, they're just sim racers. They do have kind of other things to do, other priorities outside of just sitting in a sim rig for God knows how many hours. But yeah, you see how dedicated some of the top drivers are, and I think it's just amazing how they have to manage to get a little bit of time back to some of these circuits. You've got Maya Lafella down there in the 13th, returning to our GT3 championships, missing out the first round, I believe, and then she is in her Project Aversio car, heading in toward the left-hander, and will follow on through in towards this fast left-hander, and then it will just follow on through. And I think the McLaren will be very competitive in this part of this part of the circuit.
Yeah, it should be an absolute. I think one thing that we're expecting here from Maya Lafella is that she's always someone that's in that midfield and sort of buzzing around in those particular positions, and that offers, opportunities for some decent racing from her. At the moment, she's in P13, but of course, we're very early still into this qualifying session, just a bit under halfway there. So the situation for her is basically just try and get the consistent laps in, even if she stays in the 31s, because of the group, how close the group in the midfield is. Just keep keeping those consistent lap times coming in will instill that confidence that she has behind the wheel of that McLaren. And then the moment that she finds a bit more confidence, she'll then push a little bit further, keep that pace going, and she'll end up in a position where she might end up in the top 10. I'm also keeping, as I said, I'm keeping an eye on Dimitrij Gershi as well in P7, because he is flying at the moment as well in P7. Can't believe a rookie driver this season. He's definitely the rookie of the season, right? Are we all in agreement with that, folks? Because he's been absolutely fabulous to watch in that McLaren, and we're only on round number 4 of this championship, so he has been absolutely magnificent to watch, and he is knocking on the door of those towards the front. When he's got more experience in this game, keep an eye on this lad, because he's going to be fast.
Yeah, he's had a double. He's had 2 top 5s in the first race here. So honestly, James, the rate this is going, I'm glad you're back in the commentary box for this guy's purpose, because you know the 2 times we covered this event, this championship, you know, he's finished 5th and then 5th, and then you go off and he finishes 10th. So hear me out. Are we hoping for another P5 here? I say hoping. Are we looking at another top 5 here potentially for Dimitrij Gershi?
He's got to bounce back, hasn't he? Because, of course, he might have fallen a little bit out of form at the last time, but the Circuit Paul Ricard brings a completely different challenge, of course. It's a bit deceptive. You think you've got all of that space available, haven't you? Because, of course, there's so many different variations on that circuit. But the truth of the matter is whichever layout you select, the circuit's not particularly wide, you know, so it's a bit deceptive, and for a rookie driver, you may think that you're in for a pretty easy ride at the Circuit Paul Ricard, but the fact is you're not. Now he's back at a circuit where there isn't that many variations, and it's a pretty standard circuit, if you will, for what you would experience. He might find himself in a bit of a better position, maybe. Currently P7 as Martinelli getting out of the way as he goes through the right-hander in the middle of the circuit as he completes his next sector split. What is this Uber McLaren going to have, I wonder, as we've just seen, I believe, an improvement from Maya Lafurla, who, by the way, has just knocked on the door and is now into P9 overall. So she is looking fairly, a bit wide though, coming out of that particular corner. So she's in P9 now, is the McLaren. So again, just get that consistency, find the motion. She's in the 31s, now find the mid 31s in the next couple of laps or so. You might find yourself knocking on the door of P7, P8. Dimitrij Gershi, though, plenty of time to find for the rookie. I do expect, surely, there's going to be some improvements in qualifying. Surely there's a P6 in this rookie.
Yeah, indeed. There's definitely such huge opportunities as well. We now keep an eye here on our rookie. Again, probably wanting to try and maybe put himself onto the 3rd row, maybe even the 2nd row of the grid, but that might be too far of a stretch. For our number 15 McLaren of Ilan Dimitrij Gershi sits 4th in the championship as well, so you know it's not doom and gloom whatsoever. Other drivers have definitely struggled all throughout this campaign, especially some of the top drivers. Someone like Dom Zimmerman, he's finished 9th in the first round, before then finishing 6th 2 times on the bounce in his Lamborghini Huracan Evo 2. In which we're seeing leaving the pits now, and Ryan Carabot will join in behind him with 7 minutes left to go of the session. Manduka looks to be taking his first pole position of the season, the first one that will not go Ryan Carabot's way, but never count out the Ford Mustang driver. Do not do it ever, because that car, it just seems to be on an absolute roll. You just need to be able to trust the car is in gear. Unless Ryan says you know, there is a clear problem, or it's very evident on the screen, then yeah, maybe not quite to maybe throw out the picture then, but you know, this is, you know, sim racing, this is a so-called competizione, so we're not entirely sure if there is anything wrong with that car. It looks spick and span from the outside here, and he's heading towards these next couple of corners, trying to just warm that Ford Mustang up. We'll have about 6 minutes to try and put in a good lap.
hope the director could just quickly switch over to Adrian Manduka for just a second, because I just need to document what time Adrian Manduka currently has at the moment, because I did see a 1 minute 30.29, and it was a 130.1, sorry, for Manduka. So there's about 1.18 seconds separating Karabot from Manduka at the moment. So Manduka's got the edge out on circuit at the moment, with just a bit under now 6 minutes left in this qualifying. Back to Ryan Karabot, please, because of course he will be one of the first persons to be setting up, as he's just getting going now with his lap, as he now heads towards the first couple of corners now here at the circuit. So, you know, he's going to be wanting now to keep it clear as he heads towards Dewan now. You want to try and get this apex as late as you can, because of course you want to get on the power like that. Perfect. As he heads down towards Nico Tirol. And, you know, this is where in MotoGP is where we start to see a bit more intensity building here around this particular area. GTs, we're not expecting the majority of the racing to occur around this particular part of the circuit. Here he heads now towards turn number 6, and then he'll be heading down the complex of what is a flat corner, turn number 7, before he gets to Bernat Martinez. So, you know, look, it's going to be an intense race ahead of us, but it's important. This qualifying is quite important, because if it is anything like Zandvoort, this circuit is not going to be particularly known for its overtaking, but these tyres will be shredded pretty quickly, because it is quite a fast, free-flowing circuit, as Karabot is now just biding his time through this very clumsy complex. Turn 12, then what will be turn 13, gets on that curb, might lose a little bit of time as he crosses the sausage curbs, and then turn number 14, this is Campos, as he then heads towards the start-finishing line. Again, trying to get into the 1 minute 30.1s if he can help it, as Karabot will come across the line. Will he beat Manduka to pole position? He comes across right now. It is no improvement. He's down by 0.4 of a second, and I think that was all lost at turn 12.
Yeah, that seemed to be a couple of hit and misses there. Goes very, very wide on the opening of number 1, so he's really trying to play with these track limits as much as he possibly can. Yellow there on the exit because someone's teleported back to the pit lane, but let's keep on board with this lap here of Ryan Karabot. He'll now head in towards turn number 3, then in towards 4, trying to carry as much speed as he possibly can, and up towards kind of a Nieto of turn number 5. You can see how much of the track he is using, and then he'll be able to just punch that accelerator and use all the horsepower in that V8 motor. He blasts his way on towards Curva Afición. Turn at number 6, and in towards 7 he goes. As a long left-hander, the Mustang not quite there with it, but in towards these fast-flowing corners he'll be hard on the brakes. It's such a difficult corner as well in this part. Just managing to just squirm the rear out there and get the traction down in toward the next couple of corners. 3 corners to go in toward the right-hander. How wide can you go? Pretty wide. Yeah, again, it's just not quite there. I think it's just too much bouncing over that corner, but in towards the braking zone. How much do you brake? How do you dare to kind of brake and turn at the same time? Because that just loads one of your tires, and it's so easy to lock over the timing beam. What is the lap time? It's a 1:30.190, but I believe it's an invalidation. So no improvement for Karabot this time around. 2 minutes 30 to go, so we'll probably have 2 laps left to put it onto pole.
Yeah, it would have been an improvement, but he wouldn't have improved on his position, because Manduka sets at the moment a 1 minute 30.11. And where is Manduka at the moment on circuit? What was his last lap time? He's coming across the start-finishing line right now. 1 minute 30.042. He's improved on his pole position lap time, and now we are into the predicted 1 minute 30.0. So we are expecting further improvements from Karabot, but Manduka has beaten him, and now Karabot has got well over 0.2 of a second to try and find on the Ferrari man, who is looking firmly the favourite here at Tormo, because he's just finding just the easiness of this Ferrari, just driving around the circuit, no issues whatsoever, as he's just flying around and managing to get into the 90-second barrier.
He is indeed. And I think that 90-second barrier is going to be the most important to try and get into, because, you know, if you could maybe get into a 1:29, I think that kind of secures your pole position slot. for any of the drivers on this grid here. Manduka circulating around. Let's stay on tabs here with the Project Aversio car in the number 93. Just see how he attacks at right hand of the Karabot seemingly has been struggling with track temperature 33 degrees, so it's going to get pretty warm here. Just use all of the green stuff there. Just seems so much neater. I don't know about you, Jane, but he just opened it up a lot more and took the curbing there. And I think the Ferrari just set up to take that curb a little bit nicer compared to the Ford Mustang, where Karabot might want to go more aggressive in those times. Let's see if he can go potentially any faster. After a little bit of slipstream, and it does. No, sorry, that's a 1:30.2, so not quite there. Still on provisional pole position, 1 minute 30.0 is the time to beat.
No improvement for Dimich Gersh. You might have just seen he just decided to spin it outright at the end. He's run out of fuel, so no more improvements from him. He'll go no higher than P7. Great effort from Ice, by the way. Nick Ice now up into P8 as well, so it's a good effort from the Lizard Racing team man. His teammate at Lizard, Dominic Zimmerman, in P11 in the Lamborghini. Looking semi-decent, to be fair, are the lean green machines, so they should be in for an absolute cracker, as the checkered flag is now out.
Yep, indeed. So these are the last laps here at the circuit Ricardo Tormo, and we'll see if Adrian Manduka can potentially go any faster. What about Ryan Karabot as well? A couple of drivers also in the pits. Sean Cassar, D'Agostino into the pits comes Ryan Karabot. So it's going to be a second place from the current championship leader. But Adrian Manduka, who sits second in the championship, was second going into last time's race at Paul Ricard. He's looking to take back that second place and get some more points here on Ryan Karabot, because as I said at the start of the broadcast, if he can't go and convert this from a pole to a win, then he's going to be in a lot of trouble, and Ryan Karabot would be very much a man on a mission to go and win the championship as early as he possibly can. We saw an incredibly close qualifying session there, and that for Adrian Manduka means that he's on pole position for the third time in his ACER Malta GT3 championship career. So that is going to be absolutely pivotal.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic, actually, as well. About just a bit over 0.2 of a second separating him from Karabot. So Manduka, clearly with all the confidence in that Ferrari around this particular circuit, the circuit Ricardo Tormo. So it just shows here, doesn't it, that the championship leader can be defeated at the moment. He's on the back foot, only by 0.2 of a second, though. So will he be able to carry that forward, potentially find a little bit more comfort when we get into the main race?
So yeah, going into that main race, let's roll some ads before we head into the main race here. It looks like we are now lining up on the grid here at the circuit Ricardo Tormo ahead of a 45 minutes race. Of course, the countdown has started, and there you can see absolutely everyone. Of course, if we do get into an ad break, I'll just completely cut off, but it doesn't seem like they are currently working, so I do apologize. But yeah, I'll give another big shout out to our sponsors of this championship: Hyundai, Intercomp, Monster Energy, Brand Garage, Level Academy, and The Specialist. Thank you very much for being part of this production. But let me run through the grid with you. Adrian Manduka will be on the pole position for the first time this season. He'll be hoping to take a race win ahead of Ryan Carabot, who leads the championship between 3 wins from 3 in the opening 3 races of this championship. Can he be defeated for the first time, or will he be able to go and win a 4th in a row for the Ford Mustang team? It is an all McLaren second row of the grid, with the 89 of Denzel Agius, who will be in 3rd. Sean Cassar, who sits 2nd in the championship, he'll be hoping to make amends, especially in what could be a very, very chaotic first corner. Then we have Mark D'Agostino, who will be lining up in P5 on that 3rd row of the grid, where we'll find the number 296 of Daryl Martinelli, the 2nd highest Ferrari as well on the grid. Of course, Daryl Martinelli was a bit of a struggling competitor last time around, and back in season 1. Was slowly improving from starting from the 9th, his 9th place starts, to finishing 5th by the end of the season in Imola last time around. Let's see if he can potentially build on that. Ilan Dimekrishi is the rookie and the one to watch out for. 4th in the championship, has taken 2 top 10s in this season alone. So how will he fare around the circuit, Ricardo Tormo? It will be Nick Ice, or some people may know him as Nicholas Holmberg, in the BMW, in the Ford Mustang. It seems he will be the 2nd of the Ford Mustangs on this grid. How far can that number 83 go there on the 4th row of the grid? We will reach the 5th row, where we find Robin Barwen in the number 40 BMW. The one of 2 BMWs on this grid. How will he fare on the 5th row of the grid? He'll be joined by Maya Lafella, I believe the only female driver on this grid, in that number 5 McLaren. Then we move further down, where we see the 6th row of the grid, the Lamborghini Huracan of Dominic Zimmerman in the 950. How will that sole Lamborghini go? It has been pretty good over the last couple of races. Of course, Zimmerman with 2 6th places in the last 2 races. He'll want to try and add on that. Gabriel Quattrolani will be in the 444 Ferrari. He'll be alongside him, and that would be the last of our 3 Ferrari. Then we find the 2 Aston Martins on the 7th row of the grid, with James Smith in the number 1, ahead of the 66 of Johan Borsch. How will those 2 go? Will they be able to grab a top 10? We'll have to find out, because they've only grabbed 2 for James Smith, 1 for Johan Borsch. Then we find the next row of the grid with Chris Gatt and Linus Eriksson. Of course, Linus Eriksson, one of 2 rookies as well. Chris Gatt, who of course still is trying to work out everything around, and so of course a competizione. And then at the back we have Simon Barbara, who is now currently sitting, I believe, in 8th place in this championship, finished 7th last time around at Paul Ricard, as he'll go from the back of the grid. James, we're in for a really exciting race. I don't know about you, but I think we're going to see a lot of questions answered in this race.
I believe so. I think one thing that is for certain, though, is that Sean Cassar, he had a little bit of an absent qualifying. We didn't really talk about him at all for those 20 minutes of qualifying. So he is, despite the fact that he's 2nd in the championship, so he's got a point to prove now. He knows that his co-compatriot at the front of the title, Ryan Carabot, can be beaten. It's proven with Manduka. The question, though, is has he got the pace to potentially race against the likes of Carabot, considering he's not the fastest McLaren out there. That title going to Denzel Agius, who starts P3.
Does, and I think that 2nd row of the grid will be so interesting for sure. You know, they can definitely make something happen if they want to maybe throw it up the inside of 2. You know, there could be an opportunity on the arrive, but make sure you do it in a safely manner. We head our way now round the final curve, the Curva. Adrian Campos, the man who started it all for the Campos Feeder Series team, has gone on to win championships in Formula 2 and Formula 3. Will now try and push their way now onto that main straight here, but we'll watch for that main line as we get set here for round number 4 of the ACER Malta GT3 Championship. The eyes will be on at the lights, and we will get set here, and we go racing here at the Ricardo Tormo down in towards turn number 1. The Ferrari will be put himself on the inside line to play that defensive role, but look at Ryan Carabot. He won't be afraid to in-swing it around the outside of the Ferrari. He'll stay there. He will stay there. The two Project Avasio cars will do battle in towards the left-hander of turn number 2. Manduka maintains ahead. They'll head through 3 and on towards 4. Oh man, it looks like Carabot is desperate to try and get that position back, because if that Ford Mustang is not quite at the race pace he wants to be, he's going to have a very, very difficult time. Remember, a mandatory stop in this race has to be done here. Looks like I think one of the drivers has dropped to the back of the field. I was scared for a moment that it might have been Dominic Zimmerman, and it looks like this time it's going to be Linus Eriksson in the BMW, but Manduka leads cleanly away.
Yeah, Carabot initially putting some decent pressure on, to be fair, for P1 rather, sorry, but really well defended from Manduka. It's textbook defending, hold the inside, force him out wide, and then just hold the position, and the Ferrari will try to put his skates on. What a great start from Sean Cassar, though. Gets the jump immediately on Denzel Agius now as he tries to chase down Ryan Carabot. Remember, these two are battling out for the championship at the moment, with Sean Cassar in P2 in the standings. Ryan Carabot leading the way in this championship. If he could get the jump on this Ford Mustang, that will be a points haul that will be so desperately needed in what is a very short calendar in this event.
Yeah, you need to be on top of your game at every single race here in the ACER Malta GT3 Championship, especially going into that American stage. You really want to be within touching range of that champ, otherwise this is going to get pretty tight here. Carabot again is going to be trying to fill the mirrors. He's a much bigger car. You saw that a lap ago when the camera angle was them side by side. You just saw kind of the huge, big, chunky Ford Mustang right next to the very nimble and small aerodynamic Ferrari. It almost felt like double the size of that Ferrari with the Ford Mustang. But look at Sean Cassar. That looks like a very competitive McLaren, and I think he's just slowly making his way up to the rear end of Ryan Carabot. I wonder if that move is going to be potentially made by maybe the half an hour mark.
Interesting, actually, because looking at it, the first sector, Ryan Carabot seems to be a lot faster than Adrian Manduka, and he's putting the pressure on. So I think he may now spot the trends over the last couple of laps, that he's managed to find the pace. But then when it comes going through sector 3 and sector 4, just to put it bluntly, Manduka is so much faster in that Ferrari. So actually, here he comes then going into the final corner of Campos. There's a dive bomb here coming from Denzel Agius, who tries to get the move done, but a switchback, and it's classy from the Intercomp McLaren. They'll go side by side heading towards turn number 1 now. This is where the best of the racing is going to occur. We know Campos is a particular hotspot normally within MotoGP, but they continue on into GT3. Cassar manages to hold it on going through into turn 1, and look, that Ford Mustang once again getting close to the back of the Ferrari, and he knows that's probably going to be the corner if he's got an opportunity to get the overtake done on Manduka, because around the rest of the circuit the Ferrari is just so much faster.
That's going to be, I think, a little bit unlucky then for Denzel Agius. He went for the gap, brilliant on him, but he's kind of removed one of his cards here from his kind of chest here. He's kind of shown it, and Cassar's been able to react to it, albeit he has lost a lot of time to that passing front 2 here. So Carabot will need to be on the back here, and Manduka maybe throwing a couple moves and slowing them back into the clutches of Cassar and Agius. But I wonder how Cassar will be feeling behind the wheel, because he was starting to close on Ryan Carabot, but then he was starting to etch away around about this section here, and it just seemed like that, I don't know, I think that now that move is cost him a little bit fighting for second place here. But now down in towards that final corner of Adrian Campos. Carabot is going to be all over the back of the Ferrari. There, it seemed like it's going to be all over the place here. Manduka's struggling. I wonder if it's the tyres, but he's going to go very defensive here. And now Carabot will move to that outside line. He tried it on the first lap. Will he be able to do it 5 minutes later? Round towards turn number 1. The Ferrari goes off here, and it will look to try and go for that inside line, but the Mustang will have to switch to that outside. Gets a little bit blocked. Now this casts the opportunity for Sean Cassar and Denzel Adjus to gain back in here. The window does open for the pit stops.
Now this is where the Ferrari is going to be better, but Karabot has had a really, really good lap to keep that pressure on Adrian Manduka, and I'll be honest with you, the Ferrari started to feel that pressure now, and you can see straight out the corner the Ferrari could just get on that power so much earlier than the Mustang, and that's just purely because, of course, it's a rear-wheel drive car. It anchors the power directly into the back wheels, whereas at the moment this Ford Mustang is front engine, and that gives him a bucket of understeer around this part of the circuit, which is why you can see that distance just starting to open up. But Karabot is desperately keeping that pressure on Manduka, and that Ferrari is starting to feel it. We could saw through turn number 12 on the previous lap, Manduka went out wide, and that offered the opportunity at turn 1, and Manduka has learnt his lesson. Now Karabot is the one who's gone a bit wide at turn number 12, and that might have now cost him another opportunity going through turn 1, but he knows he's not going to get the move done around the outside. He's got to dive it down the in.
He does now. So what do you do here if you're Ryan Karabot? Because do you want to go for another move up the inside or maybe around the outside? I definitely think you should be getting in the mirrors of that Ferrari. So in towards the first corner we go once again here at the second. Ricardo Tormo both going and extending the track limits, it seems like, but of course they're very, very lenient on these track limits. Again, getting right up to the rear here of Adrian Manduka, and I do see Sean Cassar there. So those McLarens are going to be trying to will each other on and try and push on forward, but remember they're two different teams. Denzel Adjus is part of Project Avertio, and Sean Cassar, the sole Intercomp driver in this top 4. So it's going to be massively interesting to see how that team is played, because of course now you've got because it's two different teams, as I say, with Intercomp and Project Avertio, but you're the same manufacturer in McLaren. So this is going to be hugely interesting if you want to kind of play it for esports team versus manufacturer, if you can potentially get close enough. But again, those two McLarens will have to be working together, and I wonder if Karabot smells another opportunity here, James.
Yeah, Ford v Ferrari, classic event here. Let's see what turn 12's like. Is it going to be a bit wide again? No, very well crafted from the pair of them. Perhaps a little bit wide from Karabot, but look at that bucket of time lost. Not really. So I don't think there's going to be an opportunity to one on this occasion, but Karabot's got to seize the opportunity down the inside of turn 1. Bit of wheel spin coming out of the corner. The two McLarens are holding station, to be fair, but they are gradually gaining a little bit pace here towards the front 2 again. They're sort of working with each other now that Sean Cassar and Denzel Adjus have decided to stop fighting with each other. Here they go through turn 1. If it's grey, it's okay. No issues at all in terms of the track limits as they head into the hairpin. Karabot once again a little bit later on the brakes because he knows he can anchor the front wheels going around the corner and clip the apex, no issue whatsoever. Manduka's still leading this race. 36 and a bit minutes to go in this race, folks. And it's certainly not going to be all plain sailing for the pole position sitter, because Karabot is now just easing back a little bit, cooling down those tyres. I think there'll be another go at this one, perhaps in a couple of laps.
Indeed, down in towards this next left-hander here. I think, again, like you say, the next couple of laps will really make or break this race. We're heading in towards, with 36 minutes to go. Let's have a look further back here, because we've got Nicholas Holmberg, who is looking on behind Ilan Dimekrishi, who hasn't quite made the start that he wants. Still sitting there in his starting position of P7. Martinelli now is starting to romp down the road on towards Mark D'Agostino. So McLaren 345 is going to look very, very positive on that, on the British manufacturers kind of CV for this race, or end of race results race report. But now in towards Adrian Campos once again. I think Gronholm is Holmberg is looking very, very, very threatening. It seems like in the rear view mirrors of the McLaren. And I realised why I said Nicholas Nicholas Gronholm, because he's a World Rallycross driver who's for some reason when I mixed they had the same first name as Nicholas, but I don't know why. But Gronholm really just went into my mind. But Holmberg is who we're focusing on with down in towards the turn 2 hairpin. That Ford Mustang does look pretty nice, dude, with McLaren, but the rear end is saying no on Ilan Dimekrishi. He'll try that outside line, switch back in. Will he be able to get the traction in towards 4? No, he doesn't.
Got it.
He just backs off, gears off the McLaren, and that's the way to get the move done. But still holding on the outside.
Nah, it's got to be done, this one now. Around the outside, traction is going to be on the outside of the next corner. The McLaren has got a decent traction. Looks like Nick Ice getting a bit of understeer has actually cost him the opportunity to go for that one. The traction should have been on the outside of that corner. Is it going to commit to a switchback, I wonder? No, not on this occasion, but you can see he's definitely getting a bit closer at the moment, is this Lizard Racing Team Ford Mustang. As he might go for the dive there, that's an opportunity for an overtaking spot if you get close enough as well. But on this occasion, electing to stick behind the rookie in P7 at the moment, whose race pace has not been particularly up there, actually, in a bit more of a surprising fashion. Very wide out the corner from Nick Ice. He'll get a tag slapper. He's into the gravel. He'll lose a bucket at a time. I did sense that one when he lost the rear, straight into the gravel. Very wide there as well from Dimich Kershi, but he should be under no pressure now going into turn 1 as a result of that issue from the Lizard Racing Team driver.
Indeed, I really think that was a mistake. It's going to be an instant he's going to really live to regret on this one, because we know how fast Ilan Dimekrishi will be. But I think don't kind of hold that too much against yourself. I really think the pit stops could definitely make something happen. They turn their way in towards the left-hander, try and carry all the speed out you can, and just follow through the twisty, tight section of the circuit. Again, Ilan Dimekrishi is going to be just trying to maybe solidify himself some points after tonight. That McLaren does not be the strongest car out of all of the McLarens, and I think again he will just take this as a learning curve. You know, in your first season, I think we can definitely say he's one of the rookies of the season. Chris Gatt has a drive-through penalty down there in P14, so not a great look there for the number 34. I wonder if that's maybe down to track limits or maybe another reason, but you know, it's not quite obvious. We're back here with the top 4 once again. Denzel Agis now again maintaining a gap here to Sean Kassar. Kassar still chasing down Karabot, so the gap have now really opened up. I'd love to see the intervals between each driver to kind of see which one is the closest battle. I would assume it is between the two McLarens of Kassar and Agius, but of course we will have to try and base on that visually. But I wonder if Sean Kassar might want to have a go at some point on Ryan Karabot, because those two McLaren just start battling. He's managed to close back the gap, but now Karabot's not quite within touching range of Manduka, so won't be able to maybe have a little bit of a tussle and fall into the back of the two McLarens.
Yeah, that opportunity at turn 1 was probably Karabot's one and only shot on this particular stint to have a go at Manduka. Manduka's starting to pull away now as Karabot is just managing his own pace now, managing his own race pace. Doesn't need to put Manduka on pressure all the time, because of course you risk making himself a mistake as well. He'd lost about 5/10 off his best lap on the last lap, so not the most consistent of races so far from the Ferrari man. As we head back over to Ryan Karabot, if you don't mind, Mr. Director, because his pace at the moment is within around about 2/10 of his fastest lap, but his pace overall is not as fast as Manduka's at the moment. Here he comes through turn number 12. Again, happy to go out wide, get on those bumps, but car looking pretty stable at the moment is that Ford Mustang, as we've got more battling happening. Nick Ice there alongside Ivan Dimich Gershi. Now they're continuing battling here, but very well defended. Oh, there's a little bit of a bump and into the gravel. I think the rookie will go, and the position from Nick Ice is handed, but was there a little bit of a bump going into turn 12? Will Nick Ice have to be told to give the position back, or will he just carry on and take potentially a time penalty later down the line? Dimich Kershi is going side by side, and Nick Ice, by the looks of things, is not going to be defending this one. They continue side by side, but he's given the position back up. Great sportsmanship.
Yeah, good stuff there between these couple of drivers. We now see in towards the left-hander again, Nick Ice or Niklas Holmberg. gaining again on that McLaren. They're way in towards 2, but no sudden lunge there. He's taking his time, it seems like, Hornberg. And I do want to kind of reiterate it, going back to the strategy-wise about the pit window. Half an hour left into this race, 25 minutes left of the pit window. So, of course, you want to be maybe pitting those last 20 minutes. So, for the orders, I definitely keep an eye on those on that left-hand side timing screen. That will kind of tell you who's pitting at what point. So really keep an eye on that, because these are stops. We'll see who's deciding to go long with their fuel, who decides to go short, who's looking for that undercut, maybe who has trust in their pace. This is going to be a very, very important stage if you want to take a good result in this one.
Yeah, so a little bit of a mistake there from Dimitrij Gershi, not able to get down on the power here as we go back towards the midfield run, actually. And this is Maya Lafurla in the Project Versio McLaren. Trying a little bit wide going out of that corner, though, not particularly helpful. Trying to get close to Johan Borg as they head now down towards turn number 12. Again, a lot of people tend to go out wide here. Both of these drivers actually keep it a bit more conservative and content over the sausage curbs through there. But in front, that Aston Martin, great liveried Aston Martin for that matter, actually, going down the inside, and I think unnecessarily defending going through Campos, but Lafurla not able to capitalise on that one and stays in P12. I'd like to go back to the battle, if you don't mind, at Dimitrij Gershi and Nick Ice, because it looked like there was a bit of a scrap happening between the pair of them. Where is Nick Ice now? Lost a bucket of time now, actually, and the Uma McLaren once again managing to pull away from the LRT, the lean green machines that is the Lizard Racing team. And then back towards the front, Manduka and Karabot, they're in their own little scrap, of course, but Manduka really starting to put an edge now on the Ford Mustang. Sean Cassar, Denzel Adjus probably looking a bit more threatening against Karabot than Karabot is to Manduka at the moment.
Yeah, we'll have to see how this all kind of pans out. But again, Manduka really holding down the Fords, as I like to say, ahead of Ryan Karabot. And again, I'm still really keeping an eye on Sean Cassar's pace. We don't really have any live timing, maybe any graphic. All we get is a little notification in that right-hand side of the last lap time that they did over the line compared to their best lap time. That's all we get. You see that down on the right-hand side. That's all the information we get. Everything else is really done visually, and there's not been many changes over the last lap or two. So I think they're all going to continue just trying to push their limits here. Track temperature continues to stay up in the high ends of the mid-30s here, so will for sure be one to keep an eye out for. But one battle that's got very close here is Denzel Adjus. I wonder if that's maybe down to him backing off, then maybe putting the throttle down a little bit more, see if he can potentially now go for a podium here. Denzel Adjus going for his podium of the season after booking down to fourth place in the last two rounds.
Remember, Denzel Adjus, of course, started in P3. Sean Cassar got a really good start in this race, and they have battled a couple of times in this one. The two McLarens, Project Versio in P4 and Intercomp in P3. So it's going to be interesting to see what the next couple of corners is going to bring here, because this Project Versio driver is looking around all the different corners at the moment to see if there's a little bit of a gap, and just remind the man second place in the championship that he's very happy to swallow up any positions that are lost. Oh, Adjus, they're having a terrible turn 12. He's lost a bucket of time to that Intercomp McLaren as they head through now into Campos. But once again, Karabot still losing time at the moment to the man in P1, as Manduka is starting to set the precedent here that he is going to be the pace setter as we're approaching halfway into this race.
It will definitely be a very interesting remainder, but of course don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen, because there are still some big old tussles we see. Let's have a look further down the field, seeing if there's anything going on the whim that's maybe not picked up on here. In fact, here comes Nicholas Holmberg and Dominic Zimmerman, who have headed into the pit lane. They are going to be taking the early pit stop, so probably about a minute and a half earlier than probably about 2 or 3 minutes earlier than I suspected, in all honesty. Martin Martinelli continuing there in P6. So that Ferrari hasn't really pushed too much. I think he's just maintaining his pace there behind Mark D'Agostino. D'Agostino's really had some great pace in the early 10 minutes of this race, but it's kind of petered out in the last couple of moments because he's, in a way, keeping tabs with Martinelli, but he's not fast enough to be able to catch that front maybe battle of second, third, fourth, which is a shame for him. But D'Agostino, we know how much pace he potentially has in toward the left-handed now. I wonder if Karabot's starting to feel a little bit nervous, a little bit wee behind the wheel of his Ford Mustang, because you've got Sean Cassard there, you've got Delagis there, and if those maybe tyres not quite the size go off a little bit on that Ford Mustang, I wonder if that's going to maybe spell trouble for the remaining 25 minutes of this one.
Nick Ice has pitted as well, as alongside Zimmerman and Chris Gatt as well. So the first of the one and only pit stops that we're expecting, side by side there, potentially with Karabot getting in the way there, I think, of a lapped car of Zimmerman, who has just left the pit lane. So this is actually opening up an opportunity here for Karabot to actually bridge a bit of a gap between those around him. Looks like Zimmerman's kept out of the way. Remember, the Lizard Racing team driver has pitted now. Directly in front of him is his teammate at Lizard Racing team as well, Nick Ice. So he will have to, well, he doesn't have to get out of the way. The blue flags are just a little note to let you know that there are faster cars behind you, but of course there is no penalty if you decide not to adhere to them. So if Nick Ice has got anything to go by, he'd rather not be adhering any time at all, because of course he's trying to undercut Dimich Gershi in P7 at the moment. So if Dimich Gershi is clever here, he'd consider a pit stop. At the moment it looks like he's going to stretch his stint another lap, but if I was the McLaren, I'd be considering a pit stop ASAP, because that Ford Mustang is going to be flying around the circuit now as he's committed to that pit stop.
Yeah, I do wonder how that potentially go, because as I said, looking at the pit window, we've got 18 minutes to go, so you're going to be waiting a little bit of time here for your kind of refuel and change of tyres here, potentially, if drivers do want to get a change of tyres, which may be advisable. Probably is advisable, because we've seen it in races before. I believe it was the first race at Zolder, where it was Adrian Manduka up against Sheldon Muscat. Muscat were leading throughout the entire race until the pit stop. He decided to take no tyres. Adrian Manduka decided to do so, and it ended in Adrian Manduka taking the first win of the championship's history, because Manduka took tyres, Muscat didn't, and that was the deciding factor. So, yeah, if you want to make a shorter stop, don't take tyres, but it will result in for sure a very difficult moment here. Here is Cassart in the pit, so is Gabriel Quattromani as well. Looks like Johan Borg is flashing away in the pit lane here, but I can confirm that he is in. So that's going to be massively interesting with Sean Cassart coming in, because that's going to now mean that Karabot is going to be waiting in the pit lane for a longer time, and if he doesn't have the pace coming out of the pits for the first lap or so, that's going to leave him in a little bit of trouble.
Yeah, we've lost a couple of drivers in this race as well. We did have 17, we're down to 15. One of the people that's decided to call it quits for today is actually Myla Furler. She's gone, I think, out of this race now. So she, alongside another one of the drivers, has elected to wait it out and move over to the next race. Here is a little battle happening between D'Agostino and Martinelli. Now, these two have still got to make their pit stop here, and it looks like D'Agostino has decided he's going to go for it in the Intercomp McLaren. So, in fact, is that Intercomp? I'm not entirely sure, actually, but he dives into the pit lane. Martinelli will take P4 out of his hands. Ryan Karabot now in the pit lane as well. Critically, Dimich Gershi has decided not to jump at the situation against Nick Ice, by the way. He's just carried on with his stint. He's trying to commit to the overcut, so he thinks having maybe a 17-minute stint on a fresh set of tyres will buy him more time in that battle against Nick Ice, who is now up to P10. D'Agostino as I said, in the pit lane. Ryan Carabot also in the pits as he is getting overtaken by Martinelli. Where is the rest of the team here? I'm just trying to keep an eye out. Sean Cassar is probably the one we need to keep an eye out on, actually, folks, because he's going to be the one that might be trying to get the jump on Ryan Carabot. Here they come then down the main straight. Sean Cassar, where is Ryan Carabot? That is the question. I still think Ryan Carabot's in the pit lane, you know. Down that inside he will go. Has Sean Cassar beaten Ryan Carabot? I think he might have done. We'll see when they come across now the lines. Ryan Carabot now out of the pit lane. Actually, is he okay, I wonder? We'll see as he comes across the sector split. But I think if that is the situation, where is Ryan Carabot? I still think he is behind, you know. He is behind. I think Ryan Carabot might have been jumped by Sean Cassar. I'm not sure, actually. Now I'm questioning myself here.
Yeah, that's
yes.
in all honesty. Yes, well done. D'Agostino now is in front of Carabot, so that kind of means now he's going to be blocking the Ford Mustang. And remember, the McLaren does not have to get out of the way, which is going to be absolutely massive in this title hunt with Manduka in the pits, Anderson in the pits, Daryl Martinelli in the pits. So the Ford Mustang's pace just hasn't clicked today. I think that's kind of the first cracks in the title hopes of Ryan Carabot. If D'Agostino can just keep himself here, that would be absolutely huge in this title race. But yeah, Cassar behind Carabot is going to be massive for him because he'll be looking at a podium now. What about Denzel Adjus? I think is going to be the next one to look out for. Will Carabot go for that inside line? No, because it is defended by the McLaren. Now it's going to be all about the exit. Oh, D'Agostino. I mean, I think he knows exactly what he's done there. And here comes Denzel Adjus coming out of the pit lane in towards turn number 1. He is way ahead. So yes, he's even fallen below D'Agostino. He's ahead of Cassar. Massive moment in this race for sure. And who do we keep an eye out for now here?
Yes, that's the critical one here, isn't it? Because now we've got people who have committed to the overcut, and it's worked an absolute treat thanks to the efforts of the McLaren of Mark D'Agostino. It's been an absolutely fabulous effort to hold back Ryan Carabot. Carabot now in front of him, of course, in P6, but Dimich Gershi has had a massive undercut against Nick Ice as a result of all of this, and now he is in a position where he's actually in front, believe it or not, of the is that the Ferrari, the Lamborghini, sorry, of Zimmerman, is that? I'm not entirely sure. I think it is, actually. So it has Nick Ice. Where's Nick Ice in this situation? Because where is Nick Ice, I wonder? He's behind. Well, what are these... Right, there we go. That's more like it. So he has actually got the jump on Dimich Gershi in the end then. So the undercut working an absolute treat for the Ford Mustang. And Dimich Gershi, I think his rookie status has caught him out a little bit in this little scrap at the moment. So the number 83 getting a significant chunk of time against Dimich Gershi. But now Dimich Gershi will be hoping that the fresher tyres will allow him to catch back up to the Ford Mustang. But he's still got to commit to the overtake. There is Dimich Gershi actually just approaching the hairpin.
Yep, indeed. So it does seem to be that it's Adrian Manduka from Denzel Adjus and Sean Cassar. That is the podium for sure. Ryan Carabot has now gone past Mark D'Agostino fourth. So the Ford Mustang is going to try and chase down two very quick McLarens. I wonder how that was going to turn out, because remember, both those McLarens managed to get that overcut. It looks like D'Agostino in fifth there. Ericsson still needs to pair. I believe Daryl Martinelli is in fact his own position as well. So then we got Nick Holmberg, and then we got Dimich Gershi. Dom Zimmerman pitted early as well. Gabriel Quattromani has a drive-through penalty. He's currently in the pit lane at this moment in time. Lafella is, I think, the one returning, because we're now up to 16 cars, and looks like Barbara, those two are in the pits for the moment. We're currently looking at Dominic Zimmerman, see if he can potentially get past that McLaren of Ilan Dimich Gershi. Again, not quite on the same form that he was, but remember, we still have pit stops to go from Linus Eriksson and from Linus Eriksson. So Sean Cassar will now try and get the exit here and see if we can potentially pass his manufacturer teammate.
Yeah, this is critical here, actually, for these two here. As I've got one of the slow cars, I think, Quattromani, just leaving the pit lane after serving his drive-through penalty, getting in front of Adrian Manduca, so shouldn't be any issues there. But yeah, the two McLarens, they've been sort of hammering each other around this particular circuit. Occasionally Cassar in front, now Agius is in front. Cassar really could do with having this P2 here, because with Carabot down in the depths of P4 at the moment, as Martinelli's managed to get up to P6, by the way. Great race from him. Oh, there's Isaac Barbara getting out of the way. But, you know, look, the situation is at the moment. Sorry, I think it's Simon Barbara, isn't it, actually? I think I've got confused with the other championship we're part of here, Adam. Either way, Carabot now in P4 is actually not in a great position here, because, look, this getting caught up, trying to commit to the undercut has absolutely ruined his chances of getting anywhere near the podium as it stands, never mind the race victory. Adrian Manduca is looking pretty set here for a classy race victory in the Ferrari. But Denzel Agius and Sean Cassar really could do with having P2 here, because that would be a good chunk of points taken out of the championship leader, currently in P4. This Intercomp driver needs to make inroads and needs to do it now. He's only got 15 minutes to go.
Yeah, but at what point do you make that move here, James? Because I think it's going to have to be in the last 5 minutes, because we saw that right back at the start. Denzel
wide.
Yeah, Denzel Agius threw his cards early in the early stages.
Here he comes.
With a move at Adrian Campos. But now Cassar's going to try that outside line, see if he can potentially fly around the outside. He's not quite alongside the Project Novertia McLaren, but he'll in-sweep him and then look for maybe a move down at turn 2. Agius goes defensive and already showing signs that Cassar is definitely making a move. Oh, very, very close, but a good defensive maneuver.
Yeah, classy stuff, actually, from Agius to protect from the mistake that happened at Campos. So he's just trying his hardest at the moment, just to defend at the moment and just manage the race pace. He knows he's not got the pace to get anywhere near that Ferrari tonight. It's been an absolutely blinding race and a blinding qualifying, a blinding race weekend, to be fair, from Adrian Manduca, who is just now managing his own race for the next 14 minutes. So it's all going to be about Agius protecting his own interests here. Cassar did a decent effort, to be fair, in the first stint to protect from Agius, especially that little in-sweeping undercut at Campos the last time out. He just needs to do another one of those, and then it's easier said than done against a man known for his pretty impeccable defensive manoeuvres, but he has shown cracks. Is he going to show it through turn 12? He is wide out the corner, and it might cost him a little bit of time going through turn 13, because he didn't want to get on the sausage curbs. The Intercomp driver, though, looking a little bit further back on this occasion. Is he going to spit out wide, or has he learnt his lesson? No, of course Agius has learnt his lesson. They'll maintain the status quo going into turn 1.
Yep, we'll just maintain the line astern in the battle for second and third here. I think Manduca is romped down the road in what could be a very, very important race in this championship. The 89 and the 24, the two cars we're focusing on, they head their way in towards turn number 2 and in towards 3 that they'll head. And that Project Novertia McLaren, again, just needs to keep an eye on its mirrors and just stay strong and hold down the fort, because if Sean Cassar does send a move, he won't want to think twice about it. And in these desperate potential last couple of minutes, he will definitely have to go for that move at some rate. You know, you can't be holding back in these last 10 minutes. Just make sure that you are, you know, keeping your cards close to your chest, and then maybe find a maneuver by surprise. I think the element of surprise could be a bit of a crucial card to play here.
Yeah, and I think the problem is this is not really a circuit known for the element of surprise being particularly powerful. It's all about whether you're not or you make a mistake, and this is a circuit where if you do make a mistake, the amount of time that you lose wherever you are on circuit is fairly critical. The biggest one, and the biggest one of mistakes, has been this corner on turn 12. Agius taking the corner brilliantly. It looks like Cassar is willing to go out a little bit wider. He feels a bit more confident in that Intercomp McLaren, and again, looking like that the two drivers are just going to maintain the status quo. A little bit wider out for Cassar. He's trying to find every possible hundredth of a second to get into the wing mirrors of Denzel Agius, but he is not known for his mistakes. That was the first crack that we saw at Campos. He excellently defended that position. Beyond that, now he's just got to maintain this for Project Novertia, but the Intercomp driver is not going to give this one up easily. He needs this big points haul, and a car's difference between him and his championship hopeful in P4 will only allow Sean Cassar to close up that gap even faster in this championship. Again, remember, this is a short calendar. Every point is certainly going to count.
Yeah, with Brian Carabot in fourth, you know, how positive is that going to be? Because he's only going to be getting 16 points compared to Adrian Manduka's 25. He's built a massive lead in the championship, 23 points over Sean Cassar, 27 points to Adrian Manduka. So, you know, it's going to be a very, very big margin to shut down here. But I don't suspect Carabot's going to maybe be chasing for the podium anytime soon either. It's just going to these two unless they decide to make a bit of argy-bargy into a bit of contact.
So here we go then. We're getting into the little lull of this particular race now, the last 10 minutes, where people will start to iron up their long-term ramifications of this one. They may not elect to go for moves at this point in the race. They just want to maintain it. Cassar getting a little bit closer to Adjius on this lap, by the way. This is the battle again for P2 in this race. The man P2 in the championship as well sets actually his fastest lap of the race so far, does Sean Cassar, 1 minute 30.762. In fact, just a little bit down on his fastest lap, rather, by a little bit under half a tenth of a second. So he is pushing fastest laps at the moment, is Cassar, and he's putting Adjius under pressure. Both of them in equal machinery as well here. So it is all going to be about driver input and, of course, the setups that they're wearing. And the Intercomp driver, I think, is sizing up for a little bit of an opportunity, maybe going through into turn 12. Oh, it's a little mistake from Cassar, though. That might have cost him a little bit of a chance. We'll see, though. So I'm thinking turn 12, if not turn 14 at Campos, and then leading, of course, into turn number 1. But a little bit of a wiggle out of that corner might have just cost him a chance against Adjius.
Yeah, it may have done, but, you know, you still have to remain positive in this one. There'll be proper tunnel vision at this rate. You know, you're trying to fight for every single ounce of this opportunity. You've got to just go out and fight for it, which I'm sure all these racing drivers are going to be doing, all these sim races are going to be going for. But again, you just see that kind of clock just ticking down. I'm sure that these drivers can see it as well. You know, they're going to be aware of the time left on the board. You know, you just got to try it and just fight it out here. We carry on down this main straight here. Will Adjius be ahead by the time we get into turn number 2? It does look like he's okay going into 1, but I think Sean Cassar has backed off a little bit. I'm not entirely sure if that's down to tyres or if that's maybe a potential overheating, but he's kind of backed up a little bit now. We hope to maybe launch an attack in the last 5 minutes, get Adjius just resting on his laurels just a little bit, unless he's still just keeping an eye on his mirrors at all time.
Yeah, as I mentioned, Adam, I think we're now at this point of the race where everyone's going to try and cool down a little bit, cool down the tyres, cool down the engine. Just maintain, you know, the status quo, because this is where the next 5 minutes is probably going to be where, you know, the drivers will then start to consider the ultra attacking or the ultra defensive manoeuvres at the moment. Meanwhile, the only person that's finding no pressure whatsoever is Adrian Manduka. He's absolutely flying out there on the circuit at the moment. His last lap was 4/10 slower than his best lap, and he's still pulling away from Adjius and Cassar. Absolutely no issue whatsoever. How does he take turn 12, actually, does Manduka? Let's have a quick look. He does go out a little bit wide. He's willing to take over the sausage curbs and find that the car does bump over a little bit, but he doesn't seem to bottom out. So well set up and well crispy clean, I think, from Manduka in this particular race, and I think it's just another classy victory from the Maltese man.
Yeah, definitely. It seemed like this moment in time that, you know, he seems to be in full control, and as a race leader, that's exactly what you want. You want to be in control of the car. You want to be feeling comfortable in your place. You know, him and Adjius are in two very, very different situations at this moment in time. I do also want to have a look at the two Aston Martin, because I think they both started outside of the top 10 here, and there you can see that Johan Borg is fighting in 9th, and James Smith is fighting in for P10, but he's got Ilan Dimek Grishi, who has again not had the best of races. It's going to be probably his worst performance of the well, I hope it is the season. And again, he's just on the fringes of the top 10, but those Aston Martin for sure have got to really be shouted out here. They've done a fantastic job to put themselves in the position that they have Again, Ilan Dimegrishi still trying to find those open opportunities, but it's 6.5 minutes to go. He's got to now try and just find that open chance here. But I wonder if it will be down in towards turn number 2, if he can just get that run all the way through turn number 1, because he seems to be in the slip of the rear wing of that Aston Martin of James Smith.
Yeah, Dimic Gershi, to be fair to him, I don't really think his race pace has been absolutely appalling. His problem by far, that's a big mistake from James Smith in the over 40s club. Aston Martin is offering Dimic Gershi a great opportunity in the Uber McLaren to get that one done. Around the outside, he'll have to hold on to, but the grip is certainly there because, of course, he committed to the overcut. He wanted to have all the tyres at the end of this race, but it's cost him so dearly because the track positions that he's lost has meant that he's just not been able to utilise those soft tyres to the best of his ability. So the rookie driver only just now making it into the top 10. As I said, I don't really think the race pace has been that far off for the rookie driver. I think the strategy is just really poor, and I think he'll, as a rookie driver, he'll take those learnings. He'll take those learnings, move them on, and he'll know that maybe next time just stick with what everyone else is doing, and you'll be able to carry home your P6 and your P7 rather than getting in the lowly depths of P10. In front of him, though, the Johan Borges, as you said earlier on, in the Aston Martin. He'll be looking in the other over 40s club Aston Martin team just to manage the race pace, and the Pro-Am driver feeling relatively okay at the moment in P9.
Yeah, indeed. P9 will be composing some stuff there. The pit window does officially close here, so everyone making their pits very, very early, so that's not going to be anything to worry about. But Ilan Dimegrishi, can he potentially go and overtake here for P9? That McLaren does seemingly have a lot of pace here, but he'll head now on towards turn number 1. Will probably just be braking very early just to try and not go into the back of the Aston Martin, take a wide opening here on towards turn number 2. Yeah, of course, none of them using as much track width as the leaders do, but yeah, Johan Borges putting up a good defense here. Almost contact there, but the McLaren just holds firm for now. But we'll have to see if that Aston is ahead by the end of the 45-minute race that we just had. 4 minutes left of this one. It is going to get pretty good here. Let's try that outside, says Ilan, and he's not quite there, but again the traction might be down. The Aston,
there it is.
There you go. You saw the tank sapper go there, James, and you're straight on the comments, on the comment there. And he's got through up into P9. Good stuff there, but actually now taking one of their cars out of the top 10.
Yeah, the Pro-Am driver finding that being on the green stuff is probably not the most grippiest place. So great effort from Dimic Gershi, is now up to P9. He'll look within the next 3 minutes to try and close down on Zimmerman, but to be honest with you, that Lamborghini is looking like it's checked out for P8 at the moment. What a great race this has actually been, by the way, from the Lizard Racing team. Nick Ice in P7 and Dominic Zimmerman in P8. It's a little bit of a lowly race now between the pair of them, but both of the Lizard LRT Lizard Racing team cars with the purple eyeliner, if you will, around the front lights. Particularly potent race actually from LRT, and this is a team not really known for its race pace this season, so they'll be very happy with the performance of their cars at this race. Again, we said, didn't we, at the beginning of this race, this could be a good race for the midfield runners because maybe the front runners electing not to put too much effort at a circuit that is not really known for the majority of its racing. Got to go back, though, to the battle for P2 between Denzel Agius and Sean Cassar. These two McLarens have been battling out for a considerable amount of time, but you can see really stretching the cars now over the green stuff as they try to find every 100th of a second they can, and this is where the main battle is going to be. This is critical for Sean Cassar. If he could get P2 and put a car between him and Ryan Carabot, the amount of points that he's going to gain on the championship leader will be a lot more significant. 2 and a bit minutes to go.
Yeah, and I think this is one that Sean Cassar is going to be desperately wanting to try and pull away here from Denzel Agius, but he's closed himself back in because he knows that this is the time where he's got to just try and find that gap, whether that it be a rough move or if it's maybe a complete element or surprise move. He's got to try and find it soon because, as you say, you're second in the championship. You've had He's got a 100% podium record. Ryan Carabot, after tonight here in Valencia, it will end what seemingly was a run of, you know, 3 pole positions, 3 wins, 3 fastest laps, you know, 3 times on the podium. It's going to end tonight because of the poor race pace that was with the Mustang. It could not handle some of these corners, and that is why it was kind of faltered the American flag today. But these two McLarens are going at it. I think it'll be more in the advantage of Sean Cassar, as I say, 67 points coming into this one, and you can really shut that gap down with Manduka now in the lead. How big will that be? He does have to get it done here in towards the towards turn number 2. Minute to go here left of this one.
Yeah, got to get it done. This will be the final lap of this race. The checkered flag will be coming out, and I have a gut feeling I think Manduka came across the start-finishing line with about 1 minute and 24 seconds on the clock. So this will be the final lap of this race, if I am not mistaken. I'm just trying to see where he is on circuit. Yeah, I think that is likely going to be the situation now. So Denzel Agius and Sean Cassar have to. So Sean Cassar has to get this move done as quickly as he possibly can, and you can see he is now breathing down the backside now of Denzel Agius. The question is whether Cassar can get close enough to even edge out a potential opportunity to go for the dive. As they go through here, through into the hairpin again, just not enough space here on this particular corner. Head back to a Manduka, because I think he's going to be coming across the checkered flag in just a few short moments' time. 7 seconds to go.
Yeah, indeed. Manduka round the final corner, and in what is going to be a pivotal victory in this championship, Adrian Manduka for the first time this season and ignites the championship battle and is well and truly on, and they will head across to Barcelona in 2 weeks' time. This is going to be a race that is going to be oh so pivotal. It will be Denzel Agius who holds on for second place in the end, his first podium after his run of 4th places. In his third, the Sean Cassar. Ryan Carabot will come home in P4. Mark D'Agostino will be gained on here by Daryl Martinelli, but it will be the McLaren who comes home in 5th ahead of the Ferrari. And then what a great finish for those two. Here comes Nicholas Holmberg approaching that final corner. Well done. I think he'll be happy with 7th place today. Yes, it's been his worst kind of top 10 finish of this season. He finished 17th at Spielberg, but well done. It's been a decent one. Dominic Zimmerman there, home in 7th place for him, and then it'll be 8th place. My apology for Dom Zimmerman. And then here comes Ilan Dimek-Rishi, the rookie who's still trying to prove himself in the championship. But again, maybe looking to season 3. Could we be seeing him back up at the top end? Well, we'll have to go and see, because remember, Carabot finished 4th in this championship last season. Look at where he is now, leader of the championship. And we all come home to finish this one. A decent race here at Valencia. And a real twist of the tail in this championship hunt. I don't know about you, James, but I think that's made myself. I've got a couple of tingles, I think, set for Barcelona when we do get around to it, because I don't know about you, because that could be the real changer in the championship while heading over to America.
Yeah, Manduka managed to beat that that entire race by about 9 seconds in the end. It was an absolutely fantastic race from Manduka, and that's exactly the kind of pace that they need in order to show that he wants to fight it out for this title. But Sean Cassar couldn't get the jump on Agius in the end, so it's a good result from Agius to keep on to P2. He does manage to outscore in the end Ryan Carabot, but by only the 1 position, and he needs to do a little bit more than that if he wants to try and put a dent in what is currently at the moment the informed driver. But is the informed driver starting to lose a bit of pace? Is he starting to struggle, I wonder? Well, if that is the case, this week break has come at a really good time for him.
Yeah, it has. Just had a calculation in my head, just looking over my spreadsheet over here. It's gone from 28 points down to 14, and that is going to be a big hit to his title hopes. So yeah, I think Carabot, I think this is a blip. This is a blip in this champion where the car, just you couldn't quite get it into a stage. I don't know if it's maybe a lack of practice. Of course, remember these drivers do have lives outside of sim racing. They're kind of just normal people, you and me, that kind of enjoy competitive sim racing on the side. So I don't think this is going to be one that Karabot looks back at and says, this is kind of a downhill slope for the Ford Mustang. I think this is just going to be a blip, and we'll see him back on the podium, whether that be a first or a second in Barcelona. Yeah, I think for sure, don't count Karabot. But I think this could be the start of Manduka's, kind of rise back up to the top. He's only had two third place and a second, and that hasn't really spelled out championship fight from my point of view. But I definitely think if that win has done anything, it's definitely put a spring in the step.
Well, either way, we knew that Ricardo Tormo was going to bring potentially something a little bit different. We know the midfield runners were certainly going to be in there. Shame about Milo Furler as well. I think there was a disconnection issue. She couldn't really get back out on circuit either. So really disappointing stuff on that front. But the midfield runners, a little bit of a mixed bag. Really surprised as well by Dimek Kvishny, but I think his pace was there. It's just simply put, the race pace wasn't there because he got his strategy completely wrong. He decided to extend his stint by about 3 laps, and that killed any opportunity of him being able to hold on to around about P6 and P7. Nonetheless, though, a really good effort from the likes, as I said, of Denzel Agius, and of course from the efforts of Adrian Manduka, who managed to finish with a 1-2 respectively. But Intercomp with Sean Cassar, a decent effort in P3 as well for the wrapping up the podium. Ryan Karabot loses points in the championship lead. He still leads, but if he's falling out of form, as I said, that week break coming up is going to be very handy for him before we go to the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalonia.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we do go offline, I do want to kind of have a look at Denzel Agius, because he's had a 7th place right at the start of the season, and then a 4th second in the last 3 races. James, question: How do you think that is going to maybe curtail coming into the second half of the championship? Because he's already on a good kind of upward trajectory. Can that continue?
Essentially, we obviously know that in this particular game cycle, we know that he was more known for his Lexus racing in GT3. So he's obviously made the switch over to McLaren with, a little bit of a heightened sense of worry, because it's a car that he's not really used to. Now he's found his rhythm and he's gone to a circuit which, again, we knew that was going to be a little bit of a mixed bag. He might take that confidence now into the rest of this season, especially when we go to a more familiar circuit at the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalonia. I think we'll know his true race pace by Watkins Glen. If he does decide to then stick with the McLaren in the GT3 car, I think in other championships he could be one to keep a very firm eye on.
Yeah, absolutely. You can also keep an eye on everything that's going on our social medias. We are everywhere at Velocity Esports Racing. Also do the good YouTube stuff. Subscribe, because that will also be flashing up on the screen, and just have a look at the like button. If I say like, that should shine up as well. A feature that I found I think a couple of weeks ago. So hopefully those flash up on the screen, and so you can do both of those and make sure that you're up to date here on Velocity Esports Racing. But for myself, Adam Reed, and James Otter in the commentary box, we'll see you in 2 weeks' time when the drivers go head off to sunny Barcelona to do battle once again before heading off to the Laguna Seca, Watkins Glen, and the Circuit of the Americas there to Canada before we head off. But from myself here in the commentary box, take care, good night, we'll see you in a fortnight.